Bullshit.
Pretend for a moment we've entered a parallel universe, free of bullshit and full of bold solutions. That's what the No BS Show is all about. I'm your host, Dave Mastovich. Let's cut the bullshit. We're talking with Eric Walker, the head of marketing and sales at IntegraCare Corporation, a senior living provider that currently has 12 communities in Pennsylvania and Maryland. And I say currently because they're always on the move and growing. Eric, it's time for your tool or tip. So pick a tool or tip you'd offer that will help our audience tell their story, craft their message, or communicate to internal and external target audiences. It could be a tool like Google Trends to generate content ideas. It could be your favorite book, blog, or productivity resource, or a tip on how to approach their career, whatever you think might help our listeners.
Well, my first thought is that, my favorite blog, of course, is light reading. But
this guy is just amazing, Suzanne. Suzanne, we're going to have him as Suzanne's our only repeat guest, so we're going to have him be the repeat guest because he knows how to do it. He's going to recommend my book next. That's going to be great.
That's right. But seriously, the tip or hint is very, very simple to me, and it comes back to the beginning of the sales process. It is really discovery. What is in it for them? In other words, we have to continue to discover what our prospects' needs and wants are, not just the surface. We have to dig in deep. And that means asking a lot of questions until we truly understand what our prospects' needs and wants are. We cannot begin to identify the features of our products in order to help to move them, that are going to match those needs and wants to help move them forward in the process. I mean, it sounds so simple, but as salespeople, we love to talk. We love to hear ourselves talk. In fact, one of the things that I talk about in some of my sales training is, the good Lord gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a good reason. And when it comes to sales, that reason is for you to shut up and listen and ask questions. The more you shut up and listen and the more questions you ask, the deeper you're going to get. And we know that most people, in fact, 95% of us, I would say, make our buying decision based on an emotional connection that we make with the product or service that we're getting ready to buy. And one of the ways to make that emotional connection is to dig in deep and to discover or find out what your prospect is looking for. Then you can begin to do some selling. Simple, straightforward, basic, but critical to success.
It's excellent, and one of the things that makes IntegraCare unique is the systems and processes. So I am going to give you the opportunity to just talk a little bit deeper about how you go through your discovery, because I know you have a system, I know you have needs matching, you have specific questions that you coach them on, and talk about that, because it is the blocking and tackling, to use a football analogy, of selling, and it's something that IntegraCare is passionate about. You've invested in the training with people you bring in from out of the state, across the country, and you have systems for discovery and needs matching and questions and how to ask the questions, fact-based and emotion-based. Have at it.
Sure. We actually have what I call a toolbox of selling tools to help our salespeople in each given situation. Now, many of them are the same or very similar, but depending upon who the prospect is, we have a series of questions that we work through with them in order to make that emotional connection, to uncover those needs and wants, and to move on to what we call the AUNs, the agreed upon next step. In other words, a close, most people would call
That'll be in the show notes, AUNs.
AUNS, agreed upon next step. And that's not my creation, so I can't take credit for that. But we want to discover as much as we can and then move them on to the agreed upon next step. So that may be a small close, or that may be the full close to moving, mom into one of our communities. But then as a part of that process, usually it's an inquiry or a call in. Then we have a next step, which is somebody comes in for a tour. So we look at the information that we've gathered, and then we have a whole process that we go through in order to reinforce those things as a part of their visit. And then we also have several follow-up tools that we use as well in order to continue to move them forward in the sales process. Agreed upon next step. And like I said, sometimes it's just little pieces. In fact, there's a great book out there called The Tipping Point, and I can't remember who wrote it right now.
Malcolm Gladwell.
Yeah, thank you. But it's about helping people get to that point where they are at the tipping point and they make a buying decision. So, but that's the process in its most simple form, but it's basically questions to move them to the logical next step in the process.
Now, here's a pet peeve that I'm going to go through it so you and I get the chance to explain something that I believe people that don't work in sales have a misperception. And their misperception is not a complete misperception because there are lousy salespeople. There are lousy accountants, lousy marketers, lousy podcast hosts, whatever. But lousy salespeople have made it bad for real salespeople, and sales is a noble profession. The pet peeve I have is people think that discovery and the questions and the fact that you have a list of questions and a process, many think that is deceptive or manipulative. Talk about how these questions are questions that whether they buy from you or buy from your competitor helped that prospect because of how they were asked and what they asked.
Sure, and that is a fantastic question. And what's amazing to me is we typically don't have any, as a buyer, we typically don't have a real strong idea about what we want. So, I mean, yeah, we want a new car. Okay, well, great. Well, do you want a 2-door or 4-door? Those you can get into those questions, but we typically don't know exactly what we want, or we don't understand fully and entirely what our own needs and wants are when it comes to anything. So these questions help to really identify for the customer themselves exactly what their goals are. Maybe it's a particular marketing or sales technique that you're selling, but they help us to uncover exactly where we need to go or they need to go in order to really get what they want. So I think they help the customer in fully understanding and identifying exactly what their own drives and needs and wants are.
I love the point about saying, well, we don't know what we buy. I just bought something for Mass Solutions. It's something to help us kind of grow and go down a path. And what you said is exactly true. Suzanne, Mike Gaddy, Rhonda, my brother and I, we knew we needed something. We weren't sure exactly what we wanted or needed. And we talked to 2 or 3 different companies, and each company gave us a different idea and different question. So it isn't about manipulation. That's not to say there aren't some manipulative salespeople. There are. But the vast majority of discovery or market intel is asking questions that help the prospect whether they buy from you or not. So I'm glad you got through that. So are you ready to keep calm and hit the bullseye?
Let's hit the bullseye, Dave.
It's the pop culture segments. All right.
Bang!
I'll ask you to choose between 2 marketing or messaging classics. You tell me which one you like more. You only have a few seconds to choose and hit the bullseye. The first one, Hotels.com's Captain Obvious or William Shatner's Priceline campaign.
William Shatner's Priceline campaign.
Okay. The local one, 2 healthcare titans, both have some good advertising and good messaging. UPMC's Choose Your Healthcare as if your life depended on it, or Allegheny Health Network's Health for All.
I have to go with UPMC here. Choose your healthcare as though your life depended on it.
The Most Interesting Man in the World, or Steve Austin, the Bionic Man.
Oh, boy, I grew up on Steve Austin. He was one of my favorites, but I think I'm going to have to go with The Most Interesting Man in the World.
Beef, It's What's for Dinner, or Pork, the Other White Meat.
Those are 2 good ones as well, and I like both beef and pork. Boy, can I go with both on that one?
You can go with both. You can go with both, and when we come back, we'll talk about why.
Okay.
Jennifer Aniston or Angelina Jolie?
Oh, gotta go with Jennifer Aniston.
Oh, geez, you're such a wimp. Nothing outlasts the Energizer Bunny, or Can You Hear Me Now?
Can you hear me now?
Progressive's Flow or Jake from State Farm?
I've got to go with Progressive's Flow.
Doritos For the Bold or Lay's Bet You Can't Eat Just One?
Lay's Bet You Can't Eat Just One, even though I do love Doritos.
U2 or the Rolling Stones?
Oh, U2.
Okay, quick. So you picked William Shatner's Priceline campaign over Captain Obvious. Tell us why.
Well, I think that William Shatner, he comes across very, very credibly, and it's in a credible, fun way as well. His face was so well recognized by so many generations across so many different platforms that I think he really captured the audience because he bridged so many generations and his face was so recognizable.
The local, I guess statewide, you might as well say, titans of healthcare, and you went with Choose Your Healthcare as if your life depended on it.
And the reason I chose that one is because we all know that healthcare folks make life-changing decisions every day. And you want to know, it infers that the other healthcare provider might not have the same quality as UPMC does. So I think they really strike home with you at a personal level with that phrase.
Now, the next one you chose, you went with the adult decision as opposed to your youth. You went with the beer guy, the most interesting man in the world, over the bionic man.
Yes. And I guess I think that the reason I did is the beer guy, the most interesting man in the world, we can all relate to. The bionic man is kind of a dream that we all have as kids. So we all want to be the most interesting man in the world, and especially as guys. I mean, we all seem to think when we look in the mirror in the morning that we're the most interesting men in the world, but then we get out there and we realize that sometimes we're not. So I think that
can't relate, but
it gives us all a dream to achieve.
Suzanne's just rolling her eyes at me. She's been around me a bit too long. All right, so you went with both beef, it's what's for dinner, and pork, the other white meat. Two strong campaigns.
Yeah, and the reason I went with both is because I think that they were both very, very creative, and I think that they distinguish their product from something else. So when I say that, pork, the other white meat, we all think of chicken, but beef, it's what's for dinner. I really don't know where I was going with that.
Okay.
Sorry about that. I had an idea in my head, and it just left right there.
Okay. So Brad Pitt is our tie on the next one, which we've got two different types of messaging. Jennifer Aniston, the Jennifer Aniston, I guess, the amazing, lovable girl next door, Angelina Jolie, a bit of the rebel, maybe a little bit out there. So from a messaging standpoint, they've both done a lot of campaigns and voice work, movies, two different styles, and you took the safe choice, Jennifer Aniston.
I did, and I think when it comes to ladies, I'm looking for something that is safe and dependable. I want, while beautiful at the same time. So that's why I chose Jennifer. I mean, the girl next door is who I want to settle down with, or who I would want to be with. Not somebody that's going to, take me on some wild, grand adventure that I may not be ready for, or may change my life in a way that I don't want it to.
You don't want someone that used to be with Billy Bob Thornton.
Well, that's the other thing there. It made me a little bit uncomfortable too, but I wasn't going there, Dave. You went there.
Nothing got last, the Energizer Bunny or Can You Hear Me Now? I can't even remember which one you picked.
I picked Can You Hear Me Now? And I think the reason I loved that one is because there were so many different ways that they used it. Use creative humor in order to capture the reality that was happening in the cell phone business at that time. And it distinguished their product, Verizon's, from all the other providers out there that didn't have the same coverage.
Amazing campaign. You went with Flo?
I went with Flo. I just like Flo. She's funny and cute.
And then, of course, Lay's Bet You Can't Eat Just One.
Right. And the reason I love this campaign is because it leads us to let us know that the product is so darn good that we're going to eat lots more. So we do eat more, and then we buy more chips.
You got it. And the quickest answer, Suzanne, were you impressed how quickly he chose his music? You immediately said U2 over the Rolling Stones.
Rolling Stones, as much as I hate to say it, they're has-beens. They're gone. U2 still is out there, still current in my mind, still keeping things
Look at Suzanne
going.
over here.
I see her.
She's agitated.
Well, it could be, that we grew up in different generations, maybe. I don't know.
Oh.
I know. I wasn't going to say that.
He was just slamming you. He was just getting a dig on you, and you didn't even realize it.
I mean,
it's
sorry.
It's certainly not generational. It's a couple of years, man. All right. So, how many times have you seen U2?
I've never seen either one in concert.
What's wrong with you, man?
I know. I just put a big L on my forehead. Loser.
Oh, jeez. Let's move on to the sights and sounds. And because we know Eric so well, we're having a little bit of fun and also tying it home personally. This episode's Sights and Sounds of Marketing combines the tail end of 1996 because it was a leap year with early 1997. So a lot of these things come in late 96 and into early 97, about a 6-month period. But the number one song for 1996 was the Macarena, which Eric has led the dance for at many weddings, I'm assuming.
Absolutely. I'm the leader out there. Macarena? That's all I know. I don't know the words.
I was going to say,
Isn't
can you translate any like
no.
Dele? I have them in front of me here. I have no
Right.
bilingual skills. Dele tu cupera alegria Macarena. And then, like you said, the only one I know is, hey,
Macarena.
All right, good.
See you.
Huh?
They do that, yeah.
Oh, okay. Suzanne jumping in.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
They do.
Well, the other sights and sounds of 1996-97 include... This is kind of crazy because DVDs are launched. Came and kind of almost went. All right. Biggie and Tupac are both killed within 6 months of each other. The messaging from East Coast and West Coast rap dominated culture and continued to play a big role in hip-hop. Tickle Me Elmo causes fights in stores during Christmas shopping. Tom Cruise's Jerry Maguire movie spawns not one, but 2 catchphrases. You had me at hello and show me the money.
I think there was one more too in there, Dave. You complete me. Well, and really, when it comes to the podcast, Dave, you complete me.
So bad. So bad. It's awkward and uncomfortable.
Well, that's a part, we got to get you out of your comfort zone here, Chief.
Purell was launched as a product for consumers. It had been used by healthcare workers since 1988, and it's 99.99% of whatever is killed by Purell. And then close to home, late 1996 through early 1997, Emily Walker and Alec Mastovich are born, changing our families forever.
Yep.
So let's go back and take each one of these. DVDs, 1996, late 1996.
Yeah, I tell you, it's amazing to see what has happened over the course of time with the music industry and how even now we look at it in vinyl is beginning to come back, even if it's kind of retro. But it's been fascinating. I still remember the 8-track tapes and then the regular tapes. I remember sitting in my room when I was in high school making the mixtape.
Yes.
To hang out and listen to with the whatever lady I was hopeful to have come over or whatever, and then CDs.
Suzanne and I just had this conversation.
Oh, yeah?
I was a DJ,
Yeah, it's
and
just-
if I made you a mixtape,
It was just the best thing. So what's interesting is I still in my basement have probably about, 150 CDs that I haven't listened to at all. Now I got everything on my iTunes or my Apple, whatever my product
Yes.
is. That's where I listen to all my music now. So it's really been interesting to watch the evolution and how things go and come.
If you think about CDs had a small window, and why did they have a small window? Because you couldn't make a mixtape. When Jobs came out with iTunes, it enabled you to make a mixtape
True
digitally. But you couldn't make a mixtape with a CD, and that's why that period was kind of like odd. But the old mixtapes, or the movie High Fidelity with John Cusack,
Yep.
the whole theme of that was so common for everybody to make their mixtapes, and then that's what a playlist becomes on iTunes. So just incredible. And rolling right into some more music, East Coast, West Coast rap. Biggie and Tupac killed in a 6-month period, and their legacies live on. Were you a Biggie or a Pac guy, Eric?
I wasn't a rap fan at all. I really didn't listen to rap. I was the Big Hair Band fan. So,
I can't see it.
White Lion, rap, Dio, Motley Crue.
My, you're
oh
kidding.
yeah, oh
this
yeah.
is just telling. This
Oh,
is
yeah,
telling. That's why
yeah,
I
yeah.
love doing this part of the podcast.
What's
so
interesting
much.
now is Susan's over there giving me the big mouth dropped open because she's thinking, well, wait, you picked U2 over the Rolling Stones. What's wrong with you here? Talk about big hair bands. Come on. So, but yeah, I was a big hair band guy, so that didn't really impact
You
me.
rocked some Whitesnake. Here I go.
I did.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah, Whitesnake and
Red. Round and round.
yeah, exactly.
Oh my! I was a Pac guy. I liked Biggie. I did, but I was kind of a rebellious sort. So, and Pac was a little bit more of a intense lyricist. So,
And when you went back to the DVD CD thing, it's been interesting to watch rap really evolve over time and to where it really sits in today's musical genre.
Mm-hmm. From the old days of some of the early hits were just stupid, Funky Cold Medina and Bust a Move. Those were lyrical compositions.
Do you think we should have a no BS podcast rap here?
You know what? I want to. There's so many podcasts I want to do. One is I wrote something and I broke my own rule. Like last podcast was with Abby Goldstein, and I used Aiken to Be by the Replacements, and it was all about how when you do something creative, don't be afraid to show it. I wrote something about it, compared the rap artists to the NBA players because I'm passionate about music and basketball, but I never showed anybody it. But like, who was Jordan? Who was Magic? Who was Bird?
I love it. I love it.
And I never showed anybody. So that could be a podcast one day. But I'd now have to update it, and I don't know who LeBron will be because I had it all figured out with Jordan, Jay-Z, all this stuff. But so Tickle Me Elmo causes fights in stores during Christmas shopping.
Totally remember this. I couldn't believe that people were actually getting into fisticuffs over a small doll. But I think it goes back to the real drive that the advertising created in parents, and it really is a great exercise in the principles of economics when it comes to supply versus demand. They had created such demand that, and the supply was short, so it just caused this unnatural reaction in people to actually fight over a Christmas toy.
And it actually lasted 2 Christmas seasons, the fights. And the reason I know that for sure is in 97, I had an intern working for me, and this intern kept saying to me around the holidays, going, what can I do? What can I do? I'm bored silly. So I finally said, you know what? You're driving me crazy. Go get Alec a Tickle Me Elmo. And he actually got into an altercation.
No kidding.
So he comes back and he's telling this story, and everybody in the hospital is like laughing because I worked at a hospital at the time. And he actually got into a fight getting Alec a Tickle Me Elmo in 1997.
And where is that toy now?
Oh, it's in somewhere. I don't throw stuff away like that, man. So you added a third phrase to the Jerry Maguire ones where you had me at hello and show me the money and you complete me. So there you go. Show me the money is the best one of those. That scene's hilarious.
Oh yeah, that's a great scene. But I think it's a great scene because it really, you see it be the essence of the beginning of change for both of the characters in the movie. They realize that it isn't all about the money as the movie goes on.
Yes.
But I have to say, you had me at hello. I think that really wraps the essence of most relationships up. We know that in many relationships, we are making decisions on people within the first 30 seconds. And I think that most relationships, even whether it be between a man and a woman or a business relationship, oftentimes we know within that first 30 seconds whether this is somebody we're going to feel comfortable doing business with.
You like them
or
when you
not.
don't know they're crazy yet.
Right. Well, we learn that as things go on.
Both sides.
Both sides, right.
Purell was launched as a product for consumers. I jokingly said, what is the stat? It says it has some crazy stat, like 98.72% of bacteria or whatever, but it was used from 1988 until 1997. It was used by healthcare workers. Then it finally became a product for consumers. And I always find that interesting when something like GPS was used by the government for like 10 years before it became a product for consumers. And you often wonder, what took it? Like, why didn't it happen like a month later? So the same thing with Purell. Why was it almost 10 years before it was used by everybody.
You almost wonder what was happening, the 2 or 3 years before the product launched to consumers that was really driving the consumer market or driving this private industry market to become a consumer market. And I think it really came down to our awareness of diseases and our need to become almost germophobic in many ways, that we wanted to have something that was simple and easy that we could carry with us at all times, that was going to prevent, or in our minds, we think prevent us from getting a cold, getting the flu, and those kind of things. I'd be interested to see even if there were specific diseases that were actually occurring those 2 to 3 years before that we became highly aware of or were publicized in the news that maybe even drove that a little bit as well.
Mm-hmm. We'll see what Suzanne can dig up and put on the show notes.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Our little
really
research guru. So then 2 significant births in that 6-month period. Emily Walker, this is your chance to talk about your family, give the shout out to the kids, everybody else, wife, kids, dog, cat, whatever.
Sure. 2 kids. Emily, great. She's over at Worcester College right now, doing super in her first year. Wants to be a molecular biologist or a biochemistry major. So we'll see how that turns out. But she's doing really, really well. Loves school. Loves being away from home. And Adam, still 15 at home. Great little soccer player. And is learning a lot too. Sophomore. Kathy, my wife, 20 plus years. God bless her. She survived with me. But and of course our dog Greta. So that's kind of our little family. But it's amazing how important family is, and how much they can impact and change and support you throughout life. It really is. And so I'm excited for my family, and I'm proud of all of them.
Alec was born that same time as Emily, around that same time, and mine are A, B, C, D, Alec, Brevin, Carter, and Darlene. So there you have it. Eric, how can listeners contact you if they'd like to learn more about what you do?
Sure. They can reach out to me at IntegraCare. The number there is 724-940-5544. Or they can reach out to me by email, and my email address is ewalker@integracare.com. Or if they want to, they can go to our website, which is www.integracare.com. And if they go to some of the people in the company, they'll find my name there, my picture there, and my email address. It will link directly to my email as well.
And when would your next theater engagement be, singing to people at a nursing home?
We don't have anything scheduled right now, but I'm working with some of my people to get some engagements set up over the early in 2016.
Sounds good. Eric, thanks for being on the show.
Dave, it was great to be here. Always a pleasure to spend time with you. Every time I'm with you, I think I learn something, so I really appreciate the time.
Wow, this guy is just amazing. Hey, listeners, thanks for joining us for the No Bullshit Marketing Podcast. Visit nobullshitmarketing.biz. That's right, new website. It still works at boltsolutionsnobs.com, but we also have added nobullshitmarketing.biz. You'll find show notes plus additional marketing and messaging resources. You can sign up for light reading. You'll receive valuable strategies just about every other week to improve your marketing and transform your message. It really is light, intended to be read in 2 minutes or less, and it just might trigger bright ideas for you. To sign up, visit masssolutions.biz. Remember, ask yourself, what's the big idea? And build your story around the answer. It's all about bold solutions